Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. If you're joining us live or if you're watching this on the replay, my name is Abigail Barnes. Welcome to episode 77 of the Productive Wellbeing Show. And today I am so delighted to be joined by two special guests for our episode ahead of World Mental Health Day, which is on the 10th of October. So I am joined today by Alice Scutchey, who is the founder of CWPA Club, and AnnMarie Giannino, who is the founder of What Would You Miss? And we are having a conversation all about mental health, and they are going to share their stories with us. So before we get started, I just want to thank them so much for their bravery and vulnerability in doing this. And I would encourage you guys to hit the like button to show them some support as well, because it takes real courage to share vulnerably what's going on in your life. And this is why I wanted to have this show and talk about this today, because there is so much around. We believe what we see, and this isn't necessarily life, that life is more than what you see and the stories that you make up. So I'm just checking that we are live on LinkedIn, which we are. That's awesome. So as you're joining us, say hi. And as we go along, if you've got any questions for these two awesome guests, please leave the questions in the comments. And we will get to them. So welcome, Alice and AnnMarie. Thank you so much, ladies, for your time.
Of course, thanks for having us.
So amazing to have you both. And AnnMarie, you are joining us from the US. Whereabouts in the US are you? What time is it?
It is 9:30. I'm in Eastern time zone. I'm in upstate New York, not near New York City. I'm in a beautiful part of the country that is filled with color right now because it's fall and it's just a gorgeous time. Air's crisp and we're ready for fall and apple cider and all that good stuff.
Oh, amazing. Having watched like a million movies as a kid, fall in America just seems so stunning. I mean, in the UK it's nice, but you have so many trees, so many colors. But
it's pretty intense.
Fantastic. So I've got the same question to kick us off for both of you. So who would like to go first with this question? When did you first become aware of your mental health? And perhaps you tell us a little bit about sort of the story behind what it was that happened. So who's going to go first? Alice? Okay, cool.
No, I said AnnMarie, but I don't mind.
I can go first. It doesn't matter. I will go first. How about that?
Cool.
So I'll be honest. I was not aware of my mental health until I was an adult. I was a barrier and a hider. I hid what was going on mentally for me. I pretended with a smile and life of the party, and everyone, had a boyfriend that everyone thought was great. And, my life looked different than it was internally. I was a people pleaser, which is difficult when you are suffering inside. And I had expectations in my life that people looked to me for support and guidance. And God forbid if I could be struggling. And I had 2 suicide attempts when I was a teenager. And it was chalked up to, oh, she's wild and it must be drugs, and never really looking at the problem. And then a good friend of mine when I was 18 died of a drug overdose, and I just about lost it. Had to get out of town and kind of moved away for a little bit and to try to find myself again. And that was really hard to do because I was struggling and got myself in an abusive relationship. It wasn't truly until I was in my 40s that it hit me. I was struggling again with suicidal ideations. And I realized there's something deep rooted here. I have to really dive into it. And I did. It took me a year to pull myself out of the hole that I was in. And my friends were great. And then I got cancer. So I was kind of thrown back into it all again. And to be completely honest, about 6 years ago, it was less than that. It was maybe 3 years ago. I dived into my triggers and what was really my trauma that was affecting my mental being. And I have 2 kids who have mental illness in their lives. And how could I push them to talk and to be honest if I wasn't being honest with myself. So it really pushed me to go through some of the things that I've been through and really hit it hard. You know, I've now come to realize that a trigger is what we need to get us through the trauma that we've been in. You know, if we don't face our triggers, we're never going to get through it. And that's, you know, a really big part of it. So I didn't realize I had a mental illness issues until I was well into my adulthood.
Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
So brave. Alice, what was your sort of first encounter with mental health?
Yeah, thanks for sharing, AnnMarie. It's really brave. I think, you know, anyone that talks out is just, you know, incredibly inspiring. So thank you for sharing that. So I, a slightly different kind of story, really. I mean, I was quite a sensitive child growing up. So I'm the youngest of the family, 2 older brothers. So I've always been quite in touch with like my feelings, been quite a sort of emotional child. But I suppose I realized when I was sort of unwell, when I was about 15, I always struggled with my weight through school. You know, I was always up and down. I wasn't bullied, but I just was very conscious of how I looked and how I felt about my body. So this led to, I started making myself sick after meals. I would become incredibly withdrawn and secretive. I suffered really bad anxiety, so I didn't like to go out. And this went on for years, until probably I was around 21. And it just got really bad. And the anxiety turned into a severe depression. And similar to AnnMarie, sort of suicidal ideations. I'd made several plans to sort of end my life. And basically, yeah, that's when I kind of realized that things had got out of control, and it wasn't an eating disorder anymore. It was something a lot bigger. And that's when I realized, obviously, you know, this mental health is serious. And luckily it's when I sought help and got myself on the road to recovery.
Wow. Well, thank you also for sharing that story for us. Because it is incredible, like, as we said at the start, how people make up a story based on what they see and how they see you from the outside, and like, oh, I would never think that about her, and she would never, it's just me. And I think this is where mental health, unless we talk about it, it can really be just yourself, and you're never sort of externally getting the help to address what it is that's going on. So that kind of leads me into my second question then. So AnnMarie, what was it that you did, and what did you try on the journey, and how has it sort of helped?
So first, Alice, thank you for sharing that. You know, EDs, eating disorders, are something that people don't equate to having mental illness, and they don't understand that there is a deep-rooted issue to that, and as to why you're using food for a crutch. I'm an emotional eater, so that, you know, falls right into those categories, and it's a really hard thing to pull out of, which brings me to, you know, the tools that I've used. And to be honest, I was a self-destructor. I unfortunately turned to not just drugs, but self-harm. I thought that was the way to release my pain. And I think what people don't understand about eating disorder, self-harm, all of that is there's an internal pain that, because you can't see it, you don't understand why people can't see it. You're hurting so badly inside. I can remember at times thinking, how can they not see how much pain I'm in? Like, this hurts so bad. It's internal. So you find ways to release the pain, and you want to see the anxiety, the anger, the depression. You want to see it. And self-harm does that. When I was in college, I started to find ways to help myself that were healthy alternatives. My roommate would walk in and I'd be doing squat thrusts like I was an exercise junkie. And I remember her being like, wow, she's really fit. Meanwhile, I was just trying to get my blood flowing so that I would stop thinking about the pain I was in. And it actually really does work. I've taken freezing ice cold showers, because if I could sustain an ice cold shower, I could get through that. I now keep a very long list of things that I do to help myself. I know people use meditation. It's not a huge thing for me. Writing really intense words in a notebook helps me. Sitting outside and just looking up and trying to remember the lyrics to different songs seems ridiculous, but it does help me take my mind off of things. And music therapy is incredible. Finding music that fits your mood can really help you either release the tears you need to let go of, or maybe the anger, or maybe you are feeling happy and you can't figure out why. And that has been a problem in my life forever, because when I start to get happy, I think, wow, do I deserve this? Is something bad going to happen? And I used to, and I'm trying really hard now to find ways that would make myself be unhappy before something else hit me again. And that's a bad habit that you need to get out of. And it's a difficult thing to pull yourself from. And I also believe that changing your tools that are in your toolbox on a regular is so important. Sometimes I'll hear what somebody does and I'll think, wow, I think I'm going to add that to my repertoire. And it does help, because we are always changing. So we need to keep that going. But in sharing my story, I have to admit that it's been the most therapeutic thing ever, is having someone say, oh my gosh, you used to do that? Me too. It makes you feel like you're not alone, and it validates what you're going through. And that's really what we want, right? We want to be validated and to know that we're not alone.
Amazing. Top tips. Alice, what did you try, and sort of how did it help?
So I, like I said, it all came to a head when I was around 21. And, I didn't feel comfortable going to see to my parents. So I actually took myself off to the doctors. I don't think I even made an appointment. I think I just walked straight in there and I was like, look, something's not right. I've got all these horrible thoughts going around my head. I need someone to help me. And that was really the first step of me kind of getting help. They put me on some antidepressants. And because I think having the diagnosis of bulimia, anxiety, and severe depression, it just helped straight away, just sort of take a weight off my shoulders. So I knew something wasn't right. And, everyone around me probably knew, hadn't said anything. My mum knew that the bubbly Alice wasn't there anymore and I'd become very withdrawn. So I think having that diagnosis really helped me to start to recover. Obviously, I was on antidepressants for a time, and I was seeing a counsellor as well, which really helped. And I really think talking is just the lifesaver. I had a deep conversation with my parents about how I was feeling and how I'd felt growing up, and got really sort of deep with them about how I felt and how they could support me. And for something that we think so easy and simple to talk, I talk all the time, and it's such an easy thing to do. When it comes down to the crunch and you're talking about your feelings, it's so much harder. So I think the reason I recovered, or I'm still recovering, I'm not fully recovered, I'm still in recovery, is just wanting that help. And I didn't want to feel like that anymore. I wanted to have the old Alice back. I wanted to be bubbly and happy and me again. So I think, in order to be helped, you need to want to be saved, I suppose. So I started studying positive psychology and the science of happiness, just to kind of get an understanding as well of why I was feeling like that and how I could potentially help others. So that's how I kind of did it.
If I can just piggyback off of what Alice just said, I think you and I just proved such a valuable point. I mean, I go to therapy, I'm on medication. You need all of those things. There's not just one thing to go to. A medication is a Band-Aid, therapy is a Band-Aid. You need to have all of those things in your life in order to get through anything you're going through. And my therapist just said something to me last week, and it was so pivotal. I know this because I was a psych major, but to hear it out loud in your face. And she said to me, she's like, you did great work here today, but the real work happens when you walk out that door. And it's so true. We can sit in our therapy office and we can talk about whatever we want. We can take whatever medication they're giving us. But if we don't do the work when we leave, we're right back where we started. And we need all of those things that you and I are talking about in order to get through that door and really do the work.
Yeah, and I think Yolanda's asked if people come off of antidepressants, and I'm not on them anymore. But that's not to say I don't think they're a great thing, and it's really a case by case basis, really. But it's something you've discussed with your GP.
Absolutely.
That's such a great question. Thanks for asking that, Yolanda. So, ladies, how are you managing your mental health today? AnnMarie, you've touched on your toolbox. Just sort of tell us a couple of your go-tos in the toolbox that really work for you.
Yeah, so, I do use What Would You Miss every morning, every night, and in the middle of the afternoon, and we'll explain that a little bit later. I find that if I wake up and I think to myself, I'm worthy, I'm enough, and I accept today, even though I don't always do those things, as long as I keep saying them to myself, I need to reassure myself. You know, Alice can't reassure me. I need to do it. I journal. I write in my journal every single day. It might be 1 word. It might be 5 words. I find something to post on social media. You know, social media can be great, but it also can be, you know, the devil's advocate. But I find if I post something that is therapeutic to myself, I get people that are going to respond back, and that's helpful. Blogging has saved my life, honestly and truly, being able to say the things that are dark and deep. And maybe I don't publish it, but it's still there. And remembering that, you know, every day when I get up, there's someone in this world that I'm going to make a difference in. One person. That's all I really need. And it can be a family member or it can be a stranger. It doesn't really matter. I know that today I'll make a difference in one person's life. Those are some of the things that I do to help me.
I love that. Before I go to Alice, because this is where Alice is going to share, and it's going to be very similar. I also do that posting on social media, and I kind of see that it's my job to post positivity. And if I can't, it does actually affect me. I feel like I'm not sharing a positive message. So yeah, that's
well, I'd like to say something about that, because I know, Abigail, you and I talked about this, but I'm not a positive junkie. Like, I'm a negative Nelly. So there might be days that I'll write, today sucks. And that's okay, because negativity, your dark thoughts, they need a voice. If we don't give them some sort of voice, we're never going to get through them. So while I love positive quotes, and I do think that they're very helpful, I'm not one to like put them up everywhere. And I'm kind of the opposite. So I'm like, you know, we're the balance of this.
The yin and the yang.
The yin and the yang. You do need those positive quotes. The difference is when you both post a positive quote, you're explaining why that quote is so important and how that quote can be utilized in your life. It's when we post things and we just say, just smile. Okay, well, today I don't feel like smiling. Today I just want to, you know, lay in bed all day. Now I feel terrible because I can't just smile. And we need to, why should I just smile today? Like, tell me why I should just smile. And that's what you two are doing, which I think is so incredibly important.
Yeah, so. Amazing. Well, thank you for adding that bit. So Alice, what do you do?
Yeah, so like you just said, I mean, I find that, you know, I still have ups and downs every day. I think it's, you know, it's important that we understand that mental health is, you know, everyone has mental health. You know, some days are good, some days are bad. Mental health first aid actually teaches you about this continuum where you can be at any level at any time, depends on the stresses you have. So I find that, you know, making other people happy makes me happy. I like to show people how to live positively. So I post positive quotes. I have a Facebook group that I quite often check in with close friends and family, see how they are, and, you know, just give regular updates and post nice pictures. You know, and I think just taking each day as it comes. You know, I've got 2 young boys at home. Quite often our plans don't go to plan. So I think it's just about being realistic and thinking, you know, it's like you said, it's not just smile and be happy every day. Life can be crap, but it's about getting up and realizing that every day is a fresh start. So yeah, I think, you know, just I'm passionate about making other people happy, and by doing that, by posting little quotes on LinkedIn, you know, if one person says, "Oh, that really made my day," that makes my whole week. So so that's why I do it.
Amazing. So here's another sort of question. Before we go into other questions, it just came to me: how has COVID-19, for those of you who are watching this on the replay in years to come, who are like, what are they talking about? How has COVID-19 impacted your mental health, and what have you actually done and changed? And I'm also going to share mine in this as well, because it's been quite huge. So AnnMarie, what have you been finding and doing?
COVID sucks. It has been honestly one of the worst points of my life, and I've been through a lot. My kids suffered dramatically through this. You know, my youngest has a very hard time with the isolation aspect of it. It was very, very difficult. We lost my aunt, who was the matriarch of our family, and we couldn't grieve for her the correct way, the way that a family should grieve for somebody that they lost. She did die of COVID. She died, she was older and had Alzheimer's. I'm a homebody. Like, I don't really go anywhere. I work from home. But being told that I couldn't go anywhere was like, what? What do you mean I can't go anywhere? And much like cancer, you have people coming at you with, let me tell you, this is how it should be. And here's a statistic for this. And, here's my advice on that. And it's all coming at you from different angles. And you couldn't differentiate between any of it. And three aspects of it, I think, that were the hardest were people on social media were posting, oh, I cleaned out my closet today. And, I made a 7-course meal for my family. Meanwhile, I was lucky if I could get out of bed. I didn't clean jack during this whole thing. I didn't organize a single closet. People were posting their food, which gave me like major anxiety about eating. And not that people shouldn't be posting about food. I'm just giving it from my perspective. I know in the ED community, it was very difficult to see all those posts of food coming up. And, part of addiction is control. And COVID made us lose all control. In the addiction community, seeing everyone's cocktails that they were making and everyone's drinking at 10 o'clock in the morning gave anxiety to those in the recovery space, because crap, do I want to drink again? So I took COVID in a whole different light. Am I COVID smart? Absolutely. Do I believe it's a real thing? Yes. Do I believe we should wear a mask? Yes. But I don't think we have even touched on how it has affected our community, our society mentally. And it's going to be years to come before we can go back to where we were. And I, for one, struggled really bad with it. And I would post things like, I didn't do shit today. Oh, can I swear in this?
Too late.
Bleep that out. And the whole time I was like, don't swear. Bleep. I didn't do anything today, and that's okay. And people needed to hear that. They needed to hear that it's okay if you didn't do anything. I'm so sorry I swore. Alice, take it over. I'm going to go get the duct tape.
Yeah, very similar to you actually, AnnMarie. I can't say I enjoyed lockdown. Like I said, I've got 2 young kids, so I did enjoy being around them and seeing them learn and grow and being involved in their day-to-day life. But yeah, I definitely have seen the negative effects of COVID on people. I've had hundreds of people reaching out to me through LinkedIn and through my group on Facebook to say that, they're really struggling and, they just want life back to normal. And that's the sad thing, I think, is because we know it's not going to go back to normal. So it's almost like people are excited to go back to their life as it was, but we know that it's not going to be like that. So I think that's just the hard thing to kind of digest, is that's not normal anymore. And it's about encouraging people to be hopeful and embrace this new normal, I suppose. But yeah, no, I mean, I must admit, I've managed okay, but I think that's purely down to being surrounded by my kids and my husband, to be honest.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. And sorry, AnnMarie, to hear about your family loss. I mean, there's so many sides to this, our own mental health side, and then the physical side, and then the family side, and then the extended side, and then the friend side. Nobody's got out of this. No. Is the other thing that I keep sort of reminding myself and saying to people. And one person's problem that it seems trivial to you is like the biggest problem in the world to them. So this was what was interesting, was that different people, it threw up different challenges for them to mentally sort of have to deal with. And for myself, it was a real roller coaster of doing. That was the great way to distract. And obviously workaholism and that kind of activity is an addiction, and it's a great way to not really process it, to then actually really processing it and being like, wow, what's the point? And not from a suicidal point of view, but just quite literally from a basic fundamental, what's the point? What is life anymore if there is no normal and there is no this and and what are we supposed to do? So I really had a complete closet breakdown, spiritual awakening, if you like, where I just kind of came out as every day. And that's how I do it now. And that's maybe how I was doing it before, but I was never consciously thinking it is that day by day, because we can't guarantee even the next minute, the next hour, we can't guarantee it. So that for me is how I've been sort of handling the uncertainty, which always was there, but now we're just brutally aware of it in a way we never were quite before, and collectively aware of it. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting one. And the other sort of things that I guess we do as creatures of habit is looking forward to things, the holidays, the catching ups, the weekends, the parties, the people, even the Christmas now. And then it's so managing my mind to be like, you're here, you're now, be present, stop worrying about what is going to happen at Christmas, and is there going to be a Christmas, and will you eat turkey, or will it be, you know, and who will you be with? Just be. So I think that's my sort of own mental health game thing. And every time I just lose it, I go walk in nature.
Yeah, that mindfulness, right? You're either you're mindful or you're mindful, you know, how that goes. I think the hardest thing for me was also watching people who have never struggled before, all of a sudden in this space where they can't figure out what to do because they were worrying about exactly what you just said, you know. And a lot of people, it was their job, you know, am I going to have a job throughout this, you know, not just the holidays and things of that nature, but they couldn't, and they couldn't find the support, and they don't have the tools that we have because they haven't been in it as long. So to see that that part of the world struggling so hard was really, it's difficult to watch. You know, I think when you're in this space and you tell your story, there's definitely a level of empathism in you. You know, you can't really want to share your story without being empathetic. And I actually didn't want to leave the house in the beginning of all this once things did open up, because I would go out and just driving down the street, I could feel the world's energy, and it was too much. It just was too much to take in. And I think this is when I probably did the most self-care, because I had to say no to so many things that I just normally probably would have said yes to.
Yeah, I found I've gone deeper on my spiritual journey, which is the interesting thing, to learn how to manage that energy and not take on the fear and anxiety of the world if you're more of an empath, or, you know, like a light worker. You do then attract people, but it helps us in many ways to clear the next layer of trauma that, as you were saying at the beginning, AnnMarie, is locked in us from life experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Alice, you mentioned mental health first aider. So would you tell us a little bit more about what a mental health first aider is, how you qualified in it, why you qualified in it, and if anybody's interested, what they could do?
Yeah, so Mental Health First Aid England is a fantastic organisation. They, you know, similar to physical first aid. It basically teaches you how to be the first responder. So, you know, if someone had a car crash or fell down the stairs, you know, physical first aid would teach you how to deliver CPR or call the emergency services and care for that person until professional help arrived. And that's basically what mental health first aid is for mental health. So if someone's having a panic attack, or if someone's suicidal or is having a psychotic episode, mental health first aid gives you the tools to be able to approach that person, care for that person, give them hope and support like you would if they were at the side of the road after a car accident, until you can get them professional help. So it's really about noticing the signs and symptoms in others and in yourself, to be able to kind of identify someone that is having a crisis, not to diagnose. So it's very important that, you know, I stress that, because it's not about teaching you to be a mental health professional or teaching you to diagnose people. It's just teaching you about the signs and symptoms and about the different mental health disorders that are out there. And then they give you a 5-step action plan that you can then use on those mental health disorders. It's a 2-day course. It's 2 days. I actually did the first aid course and really loved it, so decided to become an instructor, which is why I now go out and teach the course. I think their mission is to empower 1 in 10 people or equip them with some kind of mental health awareness skills training. So it's really important. And like I said, it's something you can use on work colleagues, on yourself, and anyone really. So yeah, it's a really fantastic organisation.
And do your work colleagues sort of come to you as a first point of contact? Is it something that when you're in your role, your people are made aware?
Yeah, so it's definitely, I mean, it's a case-by-case basis. I did the course personally. I paid for the course myself and took myself off and did that. I didn't do it through my organisation. But it's something I'm very happy to be visible for. So it's something that I said to my current company, you know, I'm happy to be a visible mental health first aider, but it is up to the person who does the course. If you, you know, you don't want to have a long line of people outside your office if you don't want to be a visible mental health first aider. But it is important that people know that you are equipped with the tools, because, you know, that is half the battle. People don't know what to say to people when they're having a breakdown or having a panic attack. You know, they panic. So it's just about giving everyone a level of knowledge without, you know, having to be a mental health professional and getting a qualification in it.
Because that is the interesting thing, is that we sort of encourage people to speak and to talk to people, talk about what is going on, but you don't necessarily, not everybody will say the right thing or knows what to say. And sometimes it can actually be worse if you come across the person that's like, just pull yourself together and get on with it.
But it's like, you know, with suicide and things, it's, you know, your automatic thought is like, well, you know, what about your partner or what about your children? That's the last thing that is going through that person's head. You know, that just makes them feel guilty, if anything, you know, like, oh, see, they're better off without me. And you've just got to be so careful. And that's why I think it's really important that people can do that, not necessarily this 2-day course. There are other courses available that are half day and, you know, just a more general course. But I think it's so important that we just break the stigma and just get people comfortable talking, because, you know, it could save a life.
And are they trying to get sort of one representative in every organisation? Is that part?
I mean, they want to get 1 in 10 across the globe, I think, trained on some level with mental health awareness. I don't know what the sort of the goal is per company. I suppose it's up to the company what they deem appropriate. I think that you should have as many mental health first aiders as you do physical first aiders. I think it's just as important, if not as more important.
Especially during COVID now, this is the biggest thing, is that people are on their own at home and living with their mental health, because as you said, we all have mental health.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So we've got a couple of questions. Is a course available online?
Yes, so actually through COVID, it was just a 2-day face-to-face course previously, but through COVID they took it online. So it is actually online now. I'm still waiting to qualify. I've got to do one more online version before I'm signed off with the online one. But yeah, if you go on their website, you'll be able to find an instructor that is offering the online version.
And the website again was?
So it's, I don't know if it's MHFA England. But if you Google MHFA England or Mental Health First Aid England, it'll be the top link.
Amazing. If someone wants to put that in the comments, that would be super helpful. So thanks for sharing this. And then AnnMarie, tell us a bit more about what it is that you're working on. What would you miss?
Sure. First, Alice, I love what you just said, everything. I mean, it's so nice to sit with people that you're like, yes, what she said. But this course should be in, someone put it, should be in education. They should be in police forces. Everyone should have to take this course. I really believe in what you just said, because I had an issue in my son's school where a teacher made a comment that, you know, well, people with schizophrenia commit crimes, and I about lost my mind. It's actually false. People with a severe mental illness are 10 times more likely to be the victim of a crime. But that's, and she admitted that she was uneducated and she didn't know how to answer the question. It was a whole thing. But if they were educated, they would be able to answer the question. And it doesn't take much. There's just language that needs to be implemented so that we can destigmatize this. And Abigail, you know that I said this before, but you know, nobody in the history of calm down has ever actually calmed down. I mean, there are truly things that you can say to people that actually make them go higher up in their, you know, anxiety or their panic or whatever. Knowing the correct sentences to say to someone can really just be so life-changing, which kind of brings me into what would you miss? And Alice, it goes right along with what you had said. You know, people would say to me, you have a great house, you got a great job, you have 4 great kids, your family's always around. And it made me feel worse. I was like, why do I want to kill myself if all these people are around me? The guilt was incredible. When you're that low, you truly believe that you're such a burden to people that they're better off without you. You can't see that they need you in their lives, that you make a difference in their life. And I was struggling pretty severely, and I felt myself going back into that hole, which thankfully, you know, I know my warning signs and I hide them very well, so people don't know that I'm in that state. And I was contemplating, you know, suicide again. And I started thinking about things I would miss about myself. And it seemed hokey, but my girlfriend's son had died by suicide. And I was talking to her about things she missed about him. And it gave her this chance to really talk about her son and not the suicide. It was just about him and how great he was. And so I just started thinking about things I would miss about myself. And it was ridiculous things. It was singing obnoxiously in the car and being inappropriate in an elevator and swearing too much and stilettos and, you know, tiaras. And my list kept going on. And I realized, holy crap, like I got a lot of things that I would miss about me. That was the key. It wasn't about other people. It was about me and what I would miss about who I was. And I truly believe that if you can find a little bit of worth in yourself, and all those little things, they really mean everything. And when you have worth, you can then have hope. If you don't feel worthy, you have no hope. It's just, they go together. And also on top of that, shame, right? Because you feel so shameful because you feel this way. And when I started thinking about lipstick and, you know, skinny jeans and putting my feet in the sand, I realized those are things that I should be proud of about myself. And through it, I started realizing it's almost like a grounding exercise. Because if I thought about a cookie that I like to bake, I would think about how it felt to make that cookie and what it felt like to watch somebody else eat that cookie I just made and the smell of that cookie and how it tasted. And while it's not the traditional grounding, it definitely makes you feel like, wow, I get it. Like I'm supposed to be here. And it's kind of evolved into take a deep breath and you let out and you release the things that you would miss in your life. And I do that in the morning. I try to do it in the afternoon. I do it again before I go to bed. And the original idea was to take a deep breath and just say it in one breath. But what people are finding is once you start, you can't quite stop thinking about the things you would miss. And I had done it a couple weeks ago. And I was like, I'd miss roller skating. I haven't roller skated since I was 15 years old. But then all of a sudden I was like, I want to roller skate again. And you see what it does? It kind of gives you this purpose that you didn't realize was there. And it's a purpose beyond advocacy and, you know, being an influencer and blogging and your work and your job and your kids. It gives you purpose of who you are.
Amazing.
I would miss your swearing, AnnMarie.
That was nothing, girl. Let me tell you. When we get off this, we'll have a whole other conversation. You know, and I was telling Abigail, I had some people that had messaged me, you know, telling me that this is dumb and, you know, they've gone through things and they thought about it. But, you know, one woman, what would you miss does is it brings a really gentle conversation to a hard conversation. So it's really easy to tell someone, just like you did just now, Alice, that there's something you would miss about me than saying, AnnMarie, are you suicidal? Like it's so much easier to do this. And this woman messaged me. She told me her son's always struggled. And she noticed he was really down that week. And she said to him while he was eating breakfast, you know, I would miss the way you slammed the kitchen door. And I would miss your milk cup on the counter when it leaves a ring. And I'd miss your Gatorade bottles all over the house and your rock music and blah, blah, blah. And he went off to school and he messaged her in the middle of the afternoon. And I'm starting to cry just thinking about it because I think about my own kids. But he said, Mom, could you come and get me? I have been thinking about killing myself. And I didn't think you'd miss me if I wasn't here. And that's exactly what it does. It shows somebody that they value you being here. So she went and picked him up and, you know, they brought him to the hospital for evaluation. And, you know, do I believe this is the be all end all? Nope, absolutely not. It's a tool in your toolbox, just like first responding. That's a tool in my toolbox that I can take that course and I can better educate myself. Your 8, you know, your number 8 and all the things that you put with the number 8, that's another tool in my toolbox. All of those things together are what's going to save people. And the one last thing I would like to say is I have to always quote my good friend because I truly believe in what you guys are doing. Memes don't save anybody. Walks don't save anybody. You know, posts don't save anybody. People save people. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing right here, whether it helps one person, we save that one person. And it may help them just through today. That's okay. They got through today. So I think that's an important aspect of everything that we're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I actually I saw a quote earlier and I loved it. I know you're not a fan of quotes, AnnMarie, but I'm going to say it anyway.
I love quotes. I just want to know how to do the quote.
There was one, it's actually by Gandhi, and it said, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. And I just think, like you said there, it's about people, like how we think, the things we're saying, and these actions we're taking, like doing these webinars and spreading the word, telling our story, is what's going to spread happiness and make the world a better place. So yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks, Abigail, for having us on. I think it's a really important topic.
Well, thank you so much for both of you for sharing everything. And just to add to that, I have an acronym that is not mine, somebody else wrote it, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what you've both been saying. Is the conversation creates the connection, but it's the hope that this feeling might not, could go away. So the acronym for hope is hold on, pain ends.
Yeah.
And I'll sometimes play that in my head. And somebody even messaged me today, what do you do when things don't go your way? It's faith. It's that hope. It's that knowing that even though this is how you feel right now, you don't always have to feel like that. And you won't always feel like that.
Yeah.
And that you can have a conversation, and that there are other people who are going through similar things, even though they don't look like it. And I think this is one of the scariest parts about it all, is if we could see the thought bubbles of people's heads, it would be so different. But we just see the mask, and it's like you said, AnnMarie, the mask that you get so good at putting on. How are you? Yeah, great. Yeah, great, everything's fine, how are you? And if you're more intuitive, then you're like, no, really, how are you?
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I met with this I interviewed this person once, and he said that someone came up to him once and said, how's your mental health? And it like jarred him, like, wow, you must really want to know that answer. And I think if we change a little bit of the language like that, it might get people to open up just a little bit. And also, I do love quotes. I will tell you what my favorite quote is. You have gotten through 100% of the days of your life. That is my favorite quote, because when I'm really dark and I'm really hard on myself, I think, well, crap, I've been through so much worse than today. I can get through today. Yeah. So, and I love that you all explain your quotes. That's what I just love about it, because that word hope, I love that acronym for it, but you explained it with it. And I think we need more of that, because there's so many people hiding behind that mask that they don't want to put it down. They just see the quote and think, well, I can't just smile. I am just smiling. This is how I'm getting through my day. But they don't know really what they need to do to make that smile real.
Yeah, it's a journey, isn't it? So
sure is.
I'm super aware of the time, and I want to honor your time. So where can we find out about you? Where can we connect with you? And obviously we'll leave all the links after this, but so AnnMarie, where's the best place? Where can we find out about What Would You Miss?
You could just go to whatwouldyoummiss.com.
Amazing. And Alice, where should we go to connect with you?
I would say LinkedIn's probably the best platform to find me. Just search my name. I think I'm the only one with the Alice Scutchey surname anyway. So yeah, find me on there, and yeah, please reach out for anything if you want to ask any questions or just talk, then yeah, please do reach out.
Awesome. And people are thanking you in the comments for this and saying they've taken lots of notes, which is really great. And yeah, that is the intention. If you can reach one person, then that can impact other lives. So thank you so much for your time today, ladies. Thank you so much for those of you who've joined us live and for your comments. If you're watching this on the replay, let us know what you took away from this on the replay. And please, please, please share this with your friends and family as well, because it is these conversations that create the connections, and the vulnerability of sharing breeds others to be more vulnerable, because you never ever know what's going on in somebody else's life. So until next time, stay safe, stay well, and keep washing your hands.
Thank you.